Rufai Oseni don set internet on fire and e don expose everything for public. E don expose a lot for inside this particular video. Make una just hear how Arise News journalists take react to this Buhari trending update. But na wetin this una papa brother wey get coconut head, the way e take react to this particular update, na it shock many Nigerians. This man make a lot of point and a lot of sense for inside this video, and na God go bless am for this particular truth wey just pour out for inside this particular video. And make una spread the video, make una share the video so that more Nigerians can still come across this video, because this man don set internet.
I mean, very sad one. I think it was John Donne that said in his famous poem, "Seek not for whom the bells toll, for the bells toll for the death of every man diminishes all of us." Buhari and President Muhammadu Buhari has run his race. And life is dynamic because as long as you live, you are many things to many people. Some see him as a hero, but some see him otherwise. Those that he called a dot in the circle see him otherwise. Those that he said will treat in the language they understand see him otherwise. That led to the ban of Twitter in this country, because people had to report that tweet and it was deleted, and they felt, oh, how would they delete the tweet of a president? Those that were caught in the web of Decree 4 see him otherwise. Omar Diko see him otherwise. The likes of the politicians that were incarcerated after the 83 elections, about 84 when he got in, don't see him as a hero. But some will see him as a disciplined man, anti-corruption hero. But people will also talk about that legacy and say, but people around him were corrupt. So they talk about being above board like Caesar's wife, but people around you are being tried for corruption, also speaks volume. People he incarcerated for political vendetta. People he tried to terminate their lives. The judges in the dead of the night that were harassed, that everybody said, this is an assault on our judiciary, see him otherwise. But those that were close to him say, he's a father. They would even stretch it and say, the father of the nation. Those that believed in him prior to 2015 felt once he got that mandate, he was going to set Nigeria right. But what heralded is 8 years. Deepening of division, pain, lack of economic gusto and verve, lack of that economic fecundity. And even this current government blames him for the problems they are in now. So with great power comes great responsibility. But do leaders that seek power understand the responsibility, or they just want to be president? Those that see him as a hero will say at least he allowed for fairness in the electoral process. But that argument is also quickly punctured by the fact that he didn't sign the electoral reforms leading up to the 2019 elections where he was going to participate in. But they will also say, at least under him, oppositions could win governorship election. In fact, some governor in the opposition went to thank him. Some will say things like, oh, the electricity bill. Some will also say he did infrastructure, at least if not because of him. We'll not have railway, we'll not have the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, I will not have other infrastructure like that. That he did more thread of roads than anybody. But while we also talk about the rail line, some will also argue, where was there a need for the Kanu-Maradi line? President Buhari, when he ascended the throne in 2015, made the famous words that I am for everybody and for nobody. But some said he was actually for some people. He quoted Shakespeare saying there's a tide in the affairs of man. And we thought he had set the tone for the country he wanted to build. But today, like two sides of a coin, there are two sides to history of President Buhari. There will be those that will say, Veni, vidi, vici.
So?
But there will be those that will say, President Buhari, you caused pain, hurt, division, unfairness, and unkindness. Whatever part you take this morning, please remember something. We will all die. And what will be said after we're gone? I pay tribute to my king, our Sikuru Adetona, of blessed memories. He did 6 decades there. He did his best to push forward and advance the cause of Ijebu land. Something dear to his heart in his last days was the Ijebu state. Some have argued, do we need more states? Some have said possibly. The argument they even make is that it's only Ijebu land out of the former divisions that didn't get a state in the end. But his legacies are there. I took out time to read his book, his autobiography. He talked about his triumphs, his trials and travails. But one thing you cannot take away from him was that he had a heart for his country. Others might say otherwise because there are two sides to history. But whatever it is, like John Donne says in the death of those both men today, is that the death of every man diminishes us. We will all die. What will be said about you?
Okay. It was Chilon of Pata in the 17th century, a 7th century philosopher, who said, do not speak ill of the dead. Also in Antigone by Sophocles, written in 431 BC, Antigone, the major lesson from Antigone is that, look, the dead must be honored. And then there is an Italian saying, Do mortuos nili nisi bonum. It also means essentially the same thing. So I begin with that theoretical concept. And also in Africa, people say, do not speak ill of the dead. When a man dies, it is assumed that all the sins of the dead are forgiven. However, while I quote that theoretical background, I have written editorials on Hastings Banda of Malawi, Idi Amin of Uganda, in the course of this career. Sani Abacha, where we said it as it is, because we had no other option. But I think in the case of President Muhammadu Buhari, who died yesterday, 1942, 17 December 1942 to 13 July 2025, it can be said that his legacy is of a mixed character. There are those who love him deeply. There are those who hate him as equally as possible. I think his career can be divided into 3 parts as follows. First, his military career. He was one of those young men, 70 of them, who joined the Nigerian Military Training Company in 1962, I think. He was 19 at the time. And then, of course, it was from there that he was part of the team that was sent to Mons Adeshot in England to be trained as officers. And then he returned as a second lieutenant. He was maybe 20, 21 at that time. And then, he became part of the Nigerian military. Now, key highlights of his career. During the counter coup of 1966, July counter coup, he was one of the officers who took part in that coup, removing Agunyi Nrusi from power. There are some people who will never forgive him for that. Now, when the Civil War began in 1967, he was in the 1st Division under the command of General Muhammad Shua, one of the finest officers ever to come from the northern part of Nigeria. From the 1st Division, he will later play a big role in the 2nd Division of the same military. And he was part of that team, the Civil War heroes who, well, kept Nigeria safe, kept Nigeria as one, as General General Yakubu Gowon will always say. That to go on with one Nigeria, is the mission. Now, of course, after the Civil War, he was one of those officers who benefited greatly. In 1975, right, he was one of those officers who ended the Gowon administration. He was part of that coup too. And of course, he was rewarded. He has served this country as Federal Commissioner of Works. He has also served as Federal Commissioner in terms of petroleum resources. He has been, in the course of his military career, governor in Borno State. He has also, in the course of that career, been GOC in several brigades. So he distinguished himself as a soldier. In 1983, he was again part of the coup that removed the sitting civilian government of President Shehu Shagari. And he was head of state of Nigeria between 1983 and 1985. So in assessing his legacy, you could look at that face. As head of state, many will remember him for war against indiscipline, but they will also remember him for Decree 2, for Decree 4, his repression of the media. They will remember him for the 59 suitcases that nobody has been able to explain till today. They will remember him for many of the other things that happened within that environment with regard to, was it a 2.8 billion, missing petroleum fund that the likes of a public intellectual and academic, Professor Ayodele Awojobi, focused upon at that time. Now, I'll summarize that first phase. The second phase, of course, you could say will be his involvement in politics. He then showed up in politics. He was part of the founding fathers of the AMPP, the All Nigeria People's Congress, the CPC, and then eventually he was part of the coalition, the All Progressives Congress, that branded him as a military ruler turned Democrat. And then, of course, he was Nigerian president between 2015 and 2019, and also 2019 to 2023, leading the APC. Now, that's very fresh in people's memory, and many will also remember him with regard to Twitter ban, with the restriction of the civic space. The third part of his legacy that I think many will remember will have to be, his involvement also in the politics of Nigeria. Well, if we have to talk about General Buhari, we have to be comprehensive. Now, so the third part will be how he transformed from being a soldier to being a civilian leader and a Democrat. And in that regard also, opinion will be mixed, because we have seen the statement by Sowore. Sowore has nothing to say nicely about him. There will be people like that. But there are also people like Garuba Shehu, who will say nice things. People like John Padden, who wrote the autobiography of Buhari. People like Femi Adesina, who out of loyalty to his boss has also been out there on the air. Now, very quickly, let me go to this second subject. The Ogbagba II of Ijebu land, Oba Sikiru Kayode Adetono. Now, he was one of the longest reigning monarchs in Nigerian history. He reigned for 65 years. He got to the throne June 4, yeah, I think, yes, June 4, 1960. June 4, 1960, when the Western Nigeria local government wrote to him and said he will be the next Awujale. He was a student of accountancy in England, having attended the Uluiwa College, which became Adeola Odutola College. He then went to the UK to study accountancy. He was a student there when he was recalled, and he ascended the throne of his ancestors, having come through the Anikulaya line, the Obanta line, and the Belebua line. So he became, the prince, the young prince. 5 of them contested for that position, but he was the one that was chosen by the kingmakers, the Odis, as they call them within the Oshugbo tradition. And for 65 years, Obasikiru Adetono led that throne with charisma, with confidence, and acquired a reputation as one of the monarchs in Nigeria who could be counted for the honesty of his opinion. He feared nobody, perhaps because of the significance of his office. One of the reasons why there was an attempt in 1961, as young as he was, 26 at the time, to make him the president of the Western Region House of Chiefs. But that, of course, went to Oni of Ife then, Adesoji Adereme, but he led his people with great dignity. And in fact, it was under him that Ujudi Oba became a global, international, event. But it was not only Ujudi Oba that you'll be remembered for. Under him, he encouraged young people from Ijebu land, entrepreneurs from Ijebu land. Ijebu land thrived. Ijebu people prospered under his reign. Now, again, some people will say that he's a very stubborn king. It's not in my mouth. It doesn't lie in my mouth to say that. But it's because of his insistence on principles. Many of the big people in Nigeria who tried to intimidate him, no, he refused. One of his dreams was to create an Ijebu state, but he didn't quite succeed with that. Well, I speak with him with a very remote familiarity, because when his autobiography was written, Awujale, the autobiography of S.K. Adetono Ogbagba II, I was the official reviewer of the book. One of the things that struck me in the book was the extent with which he documented his disagreement with people, even with his own blood brother. Yeah. I looked at the book. I called, I think it was published by Mr. Musuru Publishers. I called Mr. Musuru. I said, why is this man writing like this? And you allowed him to just be attacking people in his, he said, you don't know the man. It's what he wants to say that he says so. So he was that kind of person, who was very forthright, and he didn't arrange his mind to express his views. So we commiserate with the people of Ijebu land, the people of Ogun State, and everyone, who were very close to Kabiyesi. The other time I met him at close range was when I was running for the deputy governorship position, and we went to see him. Of course, that's the nature of politics, with Senator Buriji Kashamu, now of blessed memory. And he received us very well. He was the father of all. His door was open to everybody. So the Ijebu people will miss him greatly. The Ogun State people will miss him greatly. And Nigeria will also miss this revered monarch, one of those who could speak truth to power and not go and queue up at Aso Rock looking for opportunities.
Thank you for watching that video. So guys, before you leave, look at the top here. Do well to subscribe, and also put on Kishobe so that whenever we upload any video in this great platform, you will be the first to see it. And please don't forget to drop your comment at the comment section, your opinion, what you think about this video. And please don't forget to share the video, spread the video, so that more people can come across this video. See guys, this is where I'm going to end the video, and I will see you guys some other time.